There are still one or two things I want to say about walking meditation. Besides that, walking meditation plays an important role in vipassana meditation. Especially in long retreats or longer intensive retreats. Because you need to exercise and walk to balance the body. We talk about balance, there's a balance of posture, there's a balance of faculties, both are interrelated. There are quite a bit of variations regarding the factors that play out in the walking meditation. How do you do a walking meditation? Yes. One is, for example, a very rough is the speed. You can range to fast, to slow. Depending on the purpose. Generally, it becomes slower and slower so that you can allow more opportunity for concentration to build up. Because to be very mindful and aware, you have to be able, you have to have some degree of concentration to look into keen observation. Generally that is. Sometimes you do walk so slow, but the mind can still be very sharp to observe a lot of things. But generally you have to walk quite slow or very slow. And then there is this, what you watch. Generally, in Vipassana you watch the basic elements, the same things in the sitting meditation, except that you are actively moving. There are many things going on. You see, although you don't see so much, and your body is moving, it means not only the feet are moving, and so on. But generally the concentration is on the feet. So there's quite a bit of these variations when it comes to objects and the way you do it, and depending on the purpose. Then there's this practice of dividing it into different phases. One phase, two phases. You increase the phases observed as you progress, which is also involved with slowing down. The more phases you walk, the slower you go. You can't do many phases and walking very fast, can you? If you have to be like a clockwork. But eventually, from 1 to 2 to 6 phases, because each phase has a distinct characteristics, qualities involved. In the sense of play of elements. For lifting, there's usually an increase of tension. Placing is a decrease of tension. And so on. When you stepped, then of course the sensations of the souls come to play a part. But finally, when you walk very slow, and you do so in small steps, then sensitivity is heightened. And so there are no phases, there's only finally end up with one. 1 to 6 phases, each phase can take longer time or shorter time. Depends on how well your balance is. One thing of special mention is the time between the walking and sitting. That means how long you walk and how long you sit. And general advice is 1 hour walking, 1 hour sitting. That's general. It can be longer and shorter depending on the situation. Generally, walking is more conducive to build up of energy, and sitting is more conducive to build up of concentration. And so there is the balance there involved. That's only generally speaking. Walking itself to build up concentration or energy depends on how you walk. And this can be quite precise depending on individuals. For example, you walk 1 hour, sit 1 hour, would generally mean more balanced. But not necessary. For certain people, you ask them to walk, sit 1 hour and walk 1 hour 10 minutes. I've tried that, and the moment they walk 1 hour 10 minutes, immediately they go into concentration. And they walk 1 hour, sit 1 hour, they don't go into concentration. Why? Because of the balancing of faculties. In certain cases, another extreme. For example, lady, she always feels very sleepy. So 1 hour walking, 1 hour sitting, not suitable. You do half an hour walking, 1 hour sitting. Half an hour sitting, 1 hour walking. And then she won't feel sleepy. So it has to go on like that for maybe 1 week before she can start increasing her sitting to 1 hour walking, 1 hour sitting. So you see, sometimes the times are very precise. It's because certain people's mind work in a certain way. There are certain people who are not suitable for sitting. you have to walk all the time. This is quite rare, but when you sit, your mind just goes beside. You cannot sit, walk, you cannot sit. When you sit, your mind is just thinking. For 1 week, it will be like that. So they can only do walking. This is a bit sad, but don't be mistaken. When you're walking, you can still go into concentration. You must know how to go into concentration. Another peculiarity to bear in mind in walking meditation is one can go into concentration while doing walking meditation. But usually, often people don't know how. Because they expect, one thing is because they expect the concentration in the walking meditation to be the same as the sitting meditation. And they also expect that the concentration to be able to get insight should be like the concentration in sitting meditation. And this is not always the case. In walking meditation, one can get insight. And can be quite profound insight also. Of course, generally they will have to walk much slower than normal walking, but nevertheless, the concentration occurs as momentary concentration. Momentary concentration means that the concentration comes in and out. Normally the person's mind is quite straightforward. Or shall I say, one track. Because when you think that you cannot get concentration when you're walking, then you won't. Very strange. Because when you really focus your mind on an object and don't think of anything else, you're in concentration. But because you're walking, there's what you call this instinct for survival. That must be aware what's happening. And then so you don't allow the mind to go into concentration. But if you allow it, it can go into concentration. And the concentration is quite unique. Of course, to allow it to go in, you have to walk in a very balanced manner. You must have enough confidence, and so on. And you do that sacrificial walk, which is at a safe distance. You don't walk like that while you are beside the drain or when you're on the road, You have one comfortable place here where you don't knock into somebody, things like that. And then you can allow the mind to completely go in and out without any great danger. And after a while, you know how to do it, you can just go in and walk, and the concentration is there. And it's quite good. On and off, you can try, and you close your eyes, and you wouldn't know anything else except the sensation in your feet. It may be just a few seconds, but you're completely in there, and you come out, And go in a few steps, and you go in and come out. You're completely aware inside the walking. This one occurs more likely when a person is walking very slow and completely concentrated. In such cases, the people don't see what is in front of them. One good way of experimenting is don't wear your spectacles. When you're doing slow walking, you don't need to wear spectacles. Do you need to wear spectacles? Generally no. Unless there are a lot of ants and things around, then of course you have to be careful not to kill them. So the walking meditation, something that the things that one can do to improve and discover. Of course, there's a lot of this. One more thing to mention in walking meditation, it's more of a cloud method, white screen. Generally it's white screen, and you can, when you go slow, you can progress to digital. But although, because the nature you walk, you open your eyes, and so on, the many movements involved, you have to be generally aware of many things. But when you slow down, your mind becomes more composed, then you know less and less of the surroundings. And you can proceed into concentration while walking. In walking concentration, usually the feet moves by itself. You don't control. It goes on by itself, and it notices all these objects by itself. You're like in a trance. Not in the trance of the, go into the Chinese medium, no, not that trance. In the sense that you are really totally fixed, but you're totally in control. There's one time walking, they're not in control. People run around until they go into a trance. They just run around, they cannot stop. This happens more in those Zen meditation centers where they run fast in a circle. That is more of an exercise, because they don't do walking meditation. They do sit and sit and sit and sit. After a while, they have to walk very fast. It's more like exercise. It's different. And then sometimes you walk until they cannot control it. Go all around. So anyway, there's a lot of walking meditation that you can try out by yourself. Okay, now we start talking a bit about feelings. Feeling foundation of mindfulness is quite direct. The principle is the same, so I don't have to say too much about it. The three types of feeling involve painful, pleasurable, and neutral. Further division can be until 5. 2 bodily feelings, 3 mental feelings. And you just be mindful of them as they arise and they pass away. Like all vipassana objects, internally, externally, origination, dissolution. So that when you watch them clearly, they will bring you to experience the 3 universal characteristics. Only that you have to handle the first one first, the painful bodily feeling. This, to a certain extent, is unavoidable, especially when you do pure vipassana. Pain plays a big part, not in only our meditation, but also, especially in our life. Bodily pain, mental pain. When it arises, it can be very strong. And when it's very strong, it begins to disturb the mind. And so the main thing about this is to be able to keep your mindfulness calm, peaceful. Clear, you will be clear because it's strong. So the idea is how well you can keep your mindfulness, keep your cool, keep your patience, especially to the extent that you're not at all disturbed by it, agitated by it. Knowing the pain is different from being mindful of the pain. Anybody who is very painful knows the pain. In a hospital, everybody knows when there's pain coming out, but they're not mindful. So when they're mindful, that means their mind is calm. There's no anger rises. The criteria for it, no anger, no aversion. And the opposite to aversion is this acceptance. Ability to accept the pain. Like you're carrying a sick child, you're able to carry it, accepting it without getting angry. Why you disturb me? You stupid kid, I don't have enough problems. You slap. And the kids are crying, so look at your mind. How well can you accept the pain? That's how well you can watch the painful feeling. So the key to watching pain is acceptance without aversion. And you know it first by seeing the body starts tensing up. It starts tensing. Right up. Start getting fidgety. The second thing that helps greatly is the concentration. Concentration is the ability to hold the mind in an undisturbed state. It can come about through samatha meditation, or it can come about through vipassana meditation. And your mind can keep steady and undisturbed, and you can hold it there and don't let it start moving, fidgeting. And then your mind is steady, and your mind is steady and it's strong. And when your mind is strong, when the pain comes, you can watch the pain mindfully. There are certain people with a lot of pain. I'm not going to go into all the details. Generally, they're not very good. Some can't be helped, like bad karma, You say, well, one day I got so much pain. I said, bad karma. That's one way of avoiding the question, answering the question. And one man, he did a lot of terrible things in his life, more than one. They have a lot of pain. So he asked me, would I be able to forego a lot of bad karma if I watch the pain mindfully? I say yes. So okay, I'm willing to watch the pain. Sometimes in such cases you watch the pain, so forget about everything, just hold your mind still, firm, don't let it get disturbed, just hold it, make sure you're mindful, be mindful. You hold it long enough, you're actually watching the pain, because the pain is so strong. The mistake is concentrate on the pain. When you concentrate on the pain, then you yourself is responsible for what? What's the word for it? Making the pain stronger than it actually is. And because you concentrate on it, you focus on it, so it's being blown up. That's why when sitting meditation, the concentration is built up. Then when you open your eyes, the pain, what is it? Small kucing rat, a little bit, tick, tick, tock, tock, yeah? When you close your eyes, wow, so much pain. Why? Because of the concentration is built up over some time. So there are different ways to go into it. Generally the first way is when it's not so strong, you concentrate on it with mindfulness. You watch it with mindfulness. I wouldn't say concentrate, watch it with mindfulness, and then generally you see the pain clearly. Secondly is you see it indirectly. You watch something else at the same time you're watching the pain sideways. And third is you ignore the pain, you just watch some other thing. And when you really can ignore the pain won't be there. Because the mind can only watch one object at one time. And you don't watch the pain for some time, the pain is not there. Why? Shouldn't it be there? Because logically it should be there. But because you don't concentrate, your mind is somewhere else, the pain somehow disappears. That's why the pain is something very strange phenomena. But generally, if you really try to look for the causes, they are there. How you walk and how you sit also has the influence on the degree of pain that you watch. Generally, if your pain is very strong, you don't walk slow. You walk slow, you develop more concentration. When you sit on the pain will become more large. It's better to walk faster. Not so fast, but moderate speed. And then you can handle it. And of course, when you start watching pain, like in a lot of discourses on watching pain, you don't concentrate on the pain, you watch mindfully, especially on the change. Anatta, anicca, lakkhana, the impermanence and the non-self aspect of pain. Then you find that if you can watch this clearly, the pain usually goes away faster. In terms of this pleasurable feeling, happy feeling, generally in Vipassana there are not too many of it. Comes only when your concentration has improved, and then pleasurable feeling can arise, and it can be quite strong. Generally, the idea is simple. When pleasurable feeling arises, you can watch pleasurable feeling. Just remember to be detached. Keep your mind detached and watch it, and then you can watch it clearly and quickly, and it passes away very fast. But once you're attached to it, and then it can can be a big problem. But Vipassana not so often. Maybe some people who have strong tendency to joy and strong tendency to attachment. Some people, they have this tendency to joy, and so when they go into concentration and they get into concentration, the joy arises, and then they get hooked onto it. They say, I'm watching joy, but they're not mindful. They're attached while they're watching the joy. And so what happens, the mind becomes imbalanced. They may start shaking, they may start rolling on the floor, they may start crying. It's already overboard. More dangerous are those people that go into concentration and they don't know and they're attached. Then it gets to what you call wrong concentration. When you get into wrong concentration, they're actually not mindful. They may think they are mindful. This is especially so when people who are attached to concentration, attached to progress. And so when this thing happens, they cling on to it. And they get into wrong concentration. Usually they don't know. It's a problem. The other feeling involved is neutral feeling. When this neutral feeling comes, usually it's not observed. Because neutral feeling is too subtle. It's like no feeling. So it's not observed. But people who do Vedana, Vipassana, feeling foundation of mindfulness as a primary foundation. That means we wash painful feeling, when feeling disappears, and it becomes pleasurable feeling. They wash pleasurable feeling, and then the pleasurable feeling becomes neutral feeling, and then they go to wash, keep on continuing neutral feeling. That's when the neutral feeling becomes the primary object. Other than that, it's normally not used as a primary object, unless in the more advanced cases. Otherwise, the body foundation will still play the main role. The body foundation can play for a while. And then of course when painful feeling comes, it also plays as a primary object. Pleasurable feeling not so much, on and off. When your concentration is stronger. The neutral feeling, it will rest. So when neutral feeling comes, usually they watch other more gross objects. But when they do, then of course they have their own type of skill whereby you watch more subtle phenomena. Usually when you watch neutral feelings, you watch the subtle objects, either subtle mind objects or subtle mental factors like delusion. Neutral feeling can come with delusion. It makes it very subtle, more difficult, not more subtle, more difficult. And other accompanying mental states. Then you can see the change. That's why the Satipatthana commentary says that to be able to watch painful feeling as a thorn, able to watch pleasurable feeling as suffering, and to be able to watch neutral feeling as impermanent. This comes with these certain insights that come with watching the nature of the different feelings in Vedana-nupassana, Satipatthana. But generally you watch feelings arise and pass away. No? And from there you go back to the same thing, that is the three universal characteristics. So I won't go into detail in these type of things, matters, because you all are supposed to know it. Yeah? Because you are big time meditators, veterans. You have been in this for a long time, many years. Yeah? At least you know the basics. You probably listen to my Dhamma talks like many times, and I say the same thing. So, but what I'm interested to say more are things that, simple things that you need to know more, or you tend to forget, which is the topic that we talk about now, is Cittanupassana, mindfulness of consciousness. And, just 1 or 2 years since I've come back to Malaysia, to stay for longer periods of time and to hold for more retreats, I noticed something. For old-timers, some of them have progressed. I'm trying to think of a polite way of saying it. Some have not. Some I don't know, because I haven't seen them before. I was seen them for too long ago, you know? So I forgot how the practice was. And somebody here told me, I meditated with you 40 years ago. Of course I don't remember you, you know. Probably when you were young, you were very sweet and pretty. Now, probably you aren't as sweet as pretty. So, and as to your progress, how you're meditating, that's even worse. Can't remember anything. But for those who come back and practice, many of them, I feel they should have progressed more. And one reason is they don't know how to do Cittanupassana properly. And that becomes a stumbling block, because as you progress in Vipassana, the objects become more subtle. And there are times that you cannot see a rising falling very well, or there are no rising falling. Or maybe because the concentration is picked up, and the concentration picked up, sometimes the breath stops for periods of time. It becomes very subtle. For example, there's no rising falling, but you're still breathing, of course. You don't breathe, what happens? You die, correct. It seems that there are certain cases that you don't breathe but you don't die. For example, you're in the 5th jhana, you don't breathe but you don't die. Breathing stops. Sometimes the in and out and the rising falling stops. Rising falling stops first, then in and out also stops. But you're still breathing. Then you don't breathe anymore. You don't breathe anymore. You go for 1, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. You're still breathing, you know. Sometimes you still breathe through the skin. Yeah? I noticed when I was meditating, I was breathing through the skin. You know why? Because I touch any air go to my nose. No air goes through my nose. I'm breathing through my skin. You know why? Because sometimes cold, we used to roast to cover the head. Yeah? And the thing goes in, out. And so it's breathing through the skin. This one, it doesn't move, no breathing here. So it's breathing through the skin. So now they have this, what do you call it? Bypass. So nowadays there's a heart bypass, no? Sometimes the heart is blocked. The heart will grow another artery or vein to another ventricle, no? So although the artery or the vein is completely blocked, but it gives another bypass. It's a heart bypass. This one is a breathing bypass. Still you breathe. So, generally, even if breathing stops, you can still watch the sensations in the body, because you don't need the breathing to watch the sensations in the body. So sometimes you stop, you cannot feel the breath, you watch the sensations at the upper lip or the face. You still watch sensations, so your meditation goes on. So anyway, breathing sometimes stops. So there are other cases we won't go into this deviating from the top, digressing on the topic. So I will talk about this neutral feeling, is it? Consciousness. So consciousness. So the object becomes very silent, you don't feel any breathing, any feelings, you don't have any feelings, you don't have painful feeling, then, you don't have joyful feeling. Neutral feeling is so subtle, you cannot feel much neutral feeling. Some neutral feeling can be a bit gross, and numb feeling is like a neutral feeling, you know. But this one is not even numb, just empty, blank, no feelings. Of course there are feelings, we are taught. The Vedana is universal, or the self-universal, so there's a neutral feeling is always there, but it's so subtle you can feel it. So what you watch consciousness. And consciousness sometimes is easier to watch than this subtle neutral feeling, and so on. Why? Because sometimes consciousness can be quite gross. Especially the hindrances are quite gross, very gross, And then even the wholesome state of mindfulness, when you develop concentration to some degree, is also relatively gross. But you cannot watch it because you're not used to watching it. Not that it cannot be watched, it can be watched. It's just a matter of practice. Just like the cutting of vegetables. You are used to cutting vegetables into thin slices, then it's very easy to cut into thin slices. You're not used to it, it's more difficult. Oh, can you cut vegetable in thin slices?
I asked the chef, they say you cut your hair very time before you perfect it.
Mrs. Ong can cut into very thin slices. Our friend says, they told me, now you can have a bypass. No? There's another type of bypass. You can use machine. Since nowadays the Chinese medicine shop, they have the machine. You take the rod and it goes automatically and you can cut very thin slices. So we have bypass. Nowadays thinking also you have a bypass. You don't have to think so much, right? Because you have artificial intelligence. You can do the artificial intelligence to do the work for you. Like for example, you want to give a Dhamma talk. Ask the AI to do one of my friends says, I'll try and see. Hey, he gave a very good Dhamma talk. Shortcut, bypass. But inside meditation, no bypass. You have to sharpen your intuition. Very fine, sharp mindfulness. But consciousness generally can be observed, it just needs some training. And you have been doing meditation for some time, shouldn't be a problem. So you just need to do some training. First you could watch your consciousness directly. And then you have to watch the consciousness changing. There are more than two ways. For example, first we talk in two ways. First is by way of the sixth sense basis. The second way is by the Satipatthana way. The sixth sense basis, you watch the consciousness and it runs through the sixth sense basis and how it responds to it. This is just generally in the first level. In this level, first level, it is generally also not called Cittanupassana proper, because you're not watching just consciousness. You're watching the Dhamma Nupassana. The phenomena as it arises when you try to follow the mind as it runs through the six sense doors. But when you try to be mindful and follow the mind, you watch many other things. So for example, you watch rising, falling. Are you watching the consciousness? You're not watching the consciousness. You're watching the body base. Elements that arise at the body base, rising, falling. Keep your mind there. Okay, concentrate there. When you do that, sometimes you're more aware of the consciousness, right? Why? Because you try to keep the mind there, it runs. Where has the mind gone? Where have you gone to? Mind, where are you? Oh, it's thinking. Come back. Mind, come back. That's why when you're thinking, you must not thinking. So you bring awareness to the thinking mind. When you're not thinking mind, thinking, you shouldn't be thinking, it stops thinking, it comes back. You say, but sometimes it doesn't work. You say, thinking, it keeps on thinking, until the story stops. What you're thinking, something very interesting. If I had I'm a millionaire, what will I do? I'm going to buy a nice house. I'm going to get all the servants and maids. I don't have to cook. All the people to look after my children. I don't take them to school. I can stay in my room and meditate. That's what you think. But when you have so much money, you won't meditate, you will go shopping. So you're not watching the thinking mind, you're watching the mind objects, what you think about. So when the thinking mind comes with craving, anger, delusion, you don't know. You know the thinking mind, I want, thinking, mindful, and then it comes back. So you come to the rising, falling. So when you're more aware of the body, you generally become more aware of the mind. So you're not watching the mind when you watch rising, falling. So hearing sound, somebody coughing, immediately the mind runs to the sound, somebody coughing. Who is coughing? Hearing, and so. Who is coughing so loud? And you shit fellow, you go out. Stop coughing. You're disturbing everybody. Bad karma for you. But you're having anger, also bad karma for you also. So you're not watching the mind, you're watching the sound. And you're watching the mind, and you should be mindful, you keep your mindfulness, and then you bring back your awareness. So you're not watching, at that time when the loud sound, you're not watching the mind, you're watching the sound. Rather the obvious is sound. So you should be hearing of the sound. When you're hearing, you're watching the hearing process. So in the beginning, sometimes you watch the mind. So when you bring it back, so you're actually watching the six sense spaces. You're not watching consciousness. But when you're watching the consciousness, it's different. You're watching the consciousness. When you go to hearing, you're watching the hearing consciousness. That means the sound is secondary. When you watch the seeing, you're not watching the eye object, you're watching the seeing consciousness. But when you open your eyes, you see the eye object, you don't see the seeing consciousness. Right? So when you're watching the consciousness, as it runs to the six sense doors, you're watching the consciousness proper. So generally in the first level, you say watch the consciousness as it runs to the six sense doors, how it responds, and then of course, how you respond, then you respond with the mental states. You're watching the mental factors. But generally at the beginning, you don't differentiate between consciousness and mental factors. So generally, you're watching consciousness. So you bring back. So it's actually a mix. But that's for a start, where you start getting to know the consciousness better. So when you go to your daily life, and walking, intentional walk, you watch your consciousness all the time? Not all the time. When you're watching the body door, the body objects. But on and off you do watch the consciousness. Especially when you walk very slow, when the objects are very subtle, then the consciousness comes into view. Only when you go into the mind door, you left with the mind door, and then the consciousness plays a bigger role. And the mind door is when the 5 sense objects are minimal, are not strong. Because when you mind door, you're more with the mind consciousness. So in the Satipatthana method, you go into the pure consciousness. That means you're watching at the mind door, not at the sense door. But when you go to the sense door, immediately you see the consciousness run to the sense door. And notice the hearing consciousness at the sound. And that is, you're watching the consciousness properly. But very quickly, bring back to the mind door. Just to delay a bit, talking about the mind door. The mind door is the mind itself, but more on the, we call the life continuum, the bhavanga citta. You see, to give an example of the mind door, one way is, when is the mind door totally working? When it's totally cut from the 5 sense doors. It's by means of the object. So you're watching more of the mind object. More, not completely, more of the mind object. Take for example, you are sleeping and you're dreaming. You're dreaming of something nice or something terrible, but it's all in a dream. Are your eyes open? No. Are you listening? No. Smelling, tasting? No. You're touching, you don't know about the body, you're somewhere else. Where are you? Somewhere in the mind door. So at that time, you're completely in the mind door. Yeah? It's as if you're seeing, as if you're hearing, but it's not the same. You're not at the sense door, you're at the mind door. If the alarm clock rings, then of course you're at the ear door. No? You know the alarm clock with the bell at the side door, when it rings, the whole clock jumps up and it, does anybody have that clock? No. But is that clock still in existence? Can you still get it from the market? You get a Ông Tiêu Anh.
Maybe.
You have? You can use it when you want to wake up early to meditate or to go to the airport. Good for people hard of hearing, especially when you grow older. Sometimes it's useful. So, the other thing is that happens is when the 5 sense objects are not clear. Of course, when you sit and meditate, You close your eyes. No? Do you open your eyes when you meditate sitting? Some people tell you to do that. I'm not the one. Unless you're really sleepy, no? In which case you can't open your eyes anyway. So you don't open your eyes. The Johnson method, they do that, the Tibetan. The Sri Chimnoy method also, they open your eyes anyway. So do you hear anything when you meditate? Do you? Sometimes. Here, of course, it's not the quietest place in the world. It's not so bad, no? Some places are worse. I remember MBMC. During my time, I meditated at the shrine hall. A very nice place to meditate, especially at night. At certain hours, there are no sounds. After 12, because I do all-night meditation those days. After 12 and before 5:30 like that, there are no sounds, quiet. After that, they start coming. Because the green lane is a highway. It comes up. It starts. After that, nowadays, even in the 2-3 a.m., and of course, if you are in the main center, highway there, you can go on. On the right side, the school. After one lesson, and to the left side, the people making bricks, no. Bum, bum, the bricks, and pump the water, gru, 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 bum, bum, bum. It's always sound. And at the back is a housing estate, no. Birds talking, people screaming, people quarreling, they see quit house, and then husband and wife quarreling, children crying, everything also we can hear. Very noisy place. After that it becomes worse, because they're building skyscrapers. So you have the foundation, ding dong, ding dong. Because they build the skyscrapers, laying down the foundation. Here tom, there tom, everywhere tom, tom, tom. Good old Lumpur has a meditation center in the middle of Penang. It's tom here, tom there, everywhere tom, tom. But still it's okay. We still meditate. It's not so bad. Okay, after a while the mind knows how to ignore it. I meditate. It's not so bad. You can ignore it. But certain places are very, very quiet. So that is of course more ideal. But not necessary, For people who tend to think when it's very quiet, those obsessive thinkers will think even more. Non-stop thinking, too quiet, they get bored. When people listen to the music all the time, they get bored when there's no sound, they're thinking. Sometimes vipassana, a little bit of noise is good. It keeps you on your feet. A little bit of pain is good. You keep you alert. Otherwise, too nice, pleasant, go to sleep. Keeps you alert. But when you go into starts going deep, then it's important, because between waking and going to deep, there's a point in between where the mind is very sensitive. At that point, a little sound will bring you out. But once you go past that critical stage, you won't know anything, because the mind doesn't care anymore. And this is more important for those doing samatha. People going to samatha, the mind is very sensitive. Small sound becomes very big sound. So they need a very quiet place for them to deepen the concentration for a long time. Once they go in deep, then it doesn't matter, they cannot hear anything. But before you go in, it is critical. And people say, no, you got with the sound, I also be mindful, because I have momentary concentration. Someone hearing, I'm still mindful. But if you do samatha, no more object, breath, my breath, all sound, no, they cannot concentrate. Whereas we can. Even mosquito bite, itchy, I was like, itchy, fly away. He said, there are two mosquitoes on your screen, called Peter and Paul. Fly away, Peter, fly away, Paul. Come back, Peter, come back, Paul. It's okay, you're mindful, it comes and goes. But when the concentration deepens, the senses become less. And so you get to know directly more the consciousness. So one way to look into the consciousness directly, to know what the consciousness is when the object all other objects are weak, and all other mental states are weak. We know the consciousness presence by its object and its mental states. Right? If no object, what happens? That means, what do you know? Nothing, I don't know anything. That means, you don't know what's happening. That means your mind is not there. The other one is, you know the mental state is there. What mental state or mental state having? Don't know. If you know the mental state, then the mind is dull. Then you know the mental state. But if the mental state is very weak and the object is weak, but mindfulness is still there, and then you watch the mindful consciousness. Sometimes you watch mindfulness, but when your mindfulness is not so blurry, then you watch the mindful consciousness, then you're watching consciousness. Sometimes I ask people, you just close your eyes and just keep your mind completely blank. What do you know? I don't know anything, that means you're not mindful. You're mindful, then he says, you're mindful, yes, what do you know? I don't know anything except mindfulness. Yeah, watching mindfulness. But you put aside the mindfulness, what is left? What is left is the consciousness. So mindfulness is consciousness like a blank screen. Of course not blank, it has object, but you're watching consciousness, it's like a blank screen. Or it's a blank space. That is consciousness in its simplest form. Once you can know it, then you can watch consciousness. A clear perception of this consciousness, this blank consciousness, with some mindfulness. One teacher called it the neutral mind. Neutral feeling is there. Because feeling is not strong. They're neutral, so it's like no feelings. But it is the consciousness, the knowing mind. The knowing mind can come with awareness, mindfulness, it can come without mindfulness. You cannot watch the consciousness without mindfulness, because you're not mindful. And you can know, but you don't know. You know, yet you don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. Right? You know that you don't know, that means you still know a little bit. Maybe not enough to call it meditation, not enough to do anything much, just to get yourself into more trouble. But you're mindful of the consciousness with mindfulness, and then you can start Satipatthana, Cittanupassana. Right? So the basic condition for Cittanupassana is continuous mindfulness, at least to some, or sometimes to some degree, which you can watch for some time to see its development, to see the other mental factors involved. Then you can see the consciousness changing at the mind door. It's only the mind objects also arise, but you don't get attached to the mind objects. So that's why on and off the instruction in Mahasi system is when there's no clear object around, what do you do? Just not knowing. That's the beginning of Cittanupassana. Knowing. With mindfulness. You just say knowing without mindfulness, you're not practicing vipassana. Something is wrong. So, in this case, it may be useful to use another noting. Be mindful. And when you're mindful, then at least you can see mindfulness. When your mindfulness is there, on and off, you'll be able to catch the mindful consciousness. And so when you get a mindful consciousness, and then you're going more into Cittanupassana. It's not difficult. Here, people don't talk so much about it. In Europe, I talk about this. It's part of the basic course. So a lot of people know about it, and they go into it. They find it interesting. So some people, they're not very sharp, not very intelligent, and they can meditate. So after a while, they do Cittanupassana. Hey, how come you can do this? Yeah, I watch consciousness. Well, they're watching consciousness when you listen to them. So they're not extremely smart or sharp, but they listen to instructions. And they get a lot of opportunity. They try out. They can watch consciousness, and they can watch it for some time. So on and off, when you don't have any clear object, you can try knowing with mindfulness, and you may get to see the consciousness, mindful consciousness. So this is also part of the Mahasi method. Okay, you can see in all the basic Mahasi instructions, when you don't know clear object, you want mindful, knowing. Yeah. Once I was teaching all these things, people asked me, how come you're not teaching Mahasi method? You're teaching your own method. I said, what on earth am I teaching your own method? Because they never listen to the instructions properly. Mahasi teaches Satipatthana, Vipassana, and Satipatthana for Satipatthana. Not only the body and feelings, also consciousness and mental phenomena. Oh, already too long, the Dhamma talk. We'll continue tomorrow. Any questions? Ông Tiêu Yên, questions? Yeah. Interview time. They don't let you know. It's meditation, private meditation secrets. Transfer minutes. Idang me punyang asava kayavahang hotu. Idang me punyang Nibbānasa Baccayo hotu Imang no punya bhagang Sabba sattanang Dhamma Sadhu.